Thank you very much, dear President, dear delegates, dear guests, ladies and gentlemen. I have to say that it is a great pleasure for me to be speaking at this 55th Ordinary Congress of the SGB-USS. I thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to be a part of the opening of this prestigious event and to bring you the greetings of the Director General of the ILO, Guy Ryder, who unfortunately could not join us on this occasion. Also, thank you for allowing me to witness a real trade union Congress in action. I've already missed that for some years. So your Congress is taking place 1 month away from the start of the centenary year of the International Labour Organization. Founded during the aftermath of the First World War, the ILO has since been a beacon for social justice all over the world. The ILO is the only tripartite organization in the UN multilateral system, and the ILO is giving voice to the labor movement all over the world. Through its standard-setting functions, the ILO provided and continues to provide a strong foundation of labor rights, ranging from standards on working time or non-discrimination to, of course, protecting the right to organize and to bargain collectively. Switzerland, as a founding member of the ILO, has been part of this important endeavor, and the SGB-USS has been an integral part pushing for greater social dialogue as the foundation of an inclusive society that ensures that economic growth is beneficial for all. I further congratulate you for the signing of a Tripartite Declaration in October, which highlights the commitment of the social partners in Switzerland to working together with the ILO in the context of the future of work discussions, both at the national and at the international level. Back in 2008, the International Labour Conference has adopted the Declaration on Social Justice for Fair Globalization. It has put decent work at the heart of the economic, social, and sustainable development models of our countries. The long and deep financial, economic, and social crisis that followed has shown how right those that have adopted this agenda were, and how key it remains in the world that is changing so quickly and so deeply. Looking at the new challenges like climate change, the demographics, the raising inequalities, but also the old challenges that you have already been discussing this morning. Looking at the risks and the opportunities, the Director General has introduced the Future of Work initiative to take the center stage of the centenary celebrations of the ILO next year. And in his report to the International Labour Conference in 2005, where he introduced the initiative, Guy Ryder stated, and I quote, "The rationale underpinning the Future of Work initiative stems from the fact that it is difficult for the ILO or any comparable international organization to address all the implications of transformational change in its regular day-to-day activities. Rarely does the opportunity arise to step back and to look at the broader picture or at the longer term, overall dynamics and direction of change, and to think through what that requires of an organization. The centenary provides that opportunity, and through this initiative, it can be taken." End of quote. So this initiative provides an important opportunity to look back at the achievements of the ILO, but even more important, to look forward at the challenges that lie ahead towards its second centenary of existence. And this is crucial, since the times are challenging for workers and trade unions, both in developed and developing countries. Globalization and technological advancements are fundamentally changing the organization of work and production on an unprecedented scale. We just need to look at the operation of global supply chains across the world. And what we are seeing in reality is that although there is a greater interconnectivity of our economies, and that this has led to economic growth, especially in emerging economies, the pressures of competition that comes with the gradual liberalization of trade generally affects the effectiveness of national regulation, which is falling painstakingly short in upholding workers' rights, such as freedom of association, quality in employment, quality in social protection in many countries. It has therefore become harder for trade unions both in developed and developing countries and emerging countries to protect the rights of workers and working conditions, which is shown both in the reduction of unionization and the fall in income labor share all over the world. A second challenge is the fragmentation of work itself. The digital terrorism, a term predominantly used in the manufacturing sectors, is increasingly taking over service industries across the globe. New technologies have reignited the fears of automation and robotization, outperforming human workers and leading to mass unemployment that exacerbate the large inequalities between those who benefit from new technologies and those who do not. While these fears are not new, there is the need for a discussion how new technologies will be used to complement that rather than to replace workers around the globe. Advances in information technologies have led to large-scale platform economies and the emergence of new forms of production and employment, making it increasingly difficult to organize workers or to distinguish the employer to bargain with. These developments threaten the traditional model of industrial relations and will be a particular change for trade unions. And while some argue that these drivers are affecting the world of work but can lead to more efficiency for business, flexibility for workers, and to greater development of emerging economies, what is clear is that they also increase inequalities, generate new and different forms of precarious work, and have profound consequences for policies and institutions designed to promote social justice and decent work for all. And one of the most pressing matters in this regard is what we call the misclassification of workers who are officially self-employed but are wholly dependent on one employer for their income as well as access to the market that they operate in. And these dependent contractors do not enjoy the same rights as workers and have in turn experienced lower levels of working conditions, of protection and wages. And the ILO has taken recently first steps in order to implement statistical definitions that measure the extent of this issue. But greater clarity in a legal sense is needed to ensure that the misclassification of workers does not lead to gaps in providing decent work for all. So the overall erosion of the formal employment relationship is an issue which poses a lot of questions, not just for governments, but for all the social partners regarding the governance of work. How do we enforce labor laws, such as minimum wage legislation, or provide a basic level of social security, including unemployment benefits and decent pensions to all workers regardless of their employment status? How do we prepare for the transitions of workplaces affected by globalization and technological change that will extend lifelong learning opportunities to all, and not just for those who are privileged to attain training often provided by their employers? And crucially for trade unions, how do you extend collective action and trade union coverage to those who are not in a formal work relationship, who are, for lack of a better term, invisible? The home account workers or those who are working in the gig economy. Subsequently, how do we ensure social dialogue between the social partners in labor markets, where it is not properly defined who the employer is and where they are situated? So in total, how do we assure that the protection of workers that the ILO and the trade unions all over the world have been fighting for during the last 100 years still has the same impact as it did and ensures that no one is left behind? These, dear friends, are some of the questions that we at the ILO have been discussing through the last few years, but that we want to further address in the report of the ILO Global Commission on the Future of Work that will be launched on the 22nd of January 2019. This is a historical chance to reassess the current struggles of workers, not just here, but globally, and also to lay the foundations to a new social contract that covers workers regardless of their employment relationship. Collective responses based on solidarity and on coordinated efforts of workers united around common demands are fundamental for decent work, inclusive growth, security, and equality. Social dialogue will be, above all, the key in tackling the greater transitions we are seeing in the world of work today. Only by guaranteeing the equal access to information, participation, and consultation of the social partners in shaping policies on all levels of governance, will it be ensured that we regulate effectively the drivers that are affecting workers all over the globe. The ILO Future of Work Centenary Initiative and the centenary next year is an extraordinary opportunity for all of us to put our hands in building the future that we want and to put social justice and decent work back at the heart of the Sustainable Development Agenda. You have been discussing these issues from a national perspective. We have to deal with these issues also from a global perspective, so whatever you decide in this Congress will be a good contribution for the ILO's Future of Work and Centenary initiatives. I wish you a very successful Congress, and I thank you very much for your attention.